Hi there. So, I wanted to make a video based on a new game I've been playing. It's not new by anyone else's standards, but it's new to me. I've been playing the game for around 3 months, um, and I really like it. And I also think it could be a lot better. Um, Ultimately, if you see the what's on the screen right now, you know the game. It's AFK Arena. I think it has really great design. It has a lot of good strategy. It's clearly makes a lot of money. When it was released, it was like I think it was the eighth highest grossing game of that year. It was the only RPG on the list of the top 20. And the game's gotten progressively more advanced, more complicated, things to do, lots of stuff. So that's good. Um, I think that its positives are that it tries to both take the formula of a gotcha game and make it not as time wasting in some regards. In other regards, it's just as bad, which that could just be gotcha games in general. But I do think that it makes a lot of good steps towards trying to learn from the predecessors of old and do what's better. Um, I'm an ex WoW player. I still play in my head. I still think about things in terms of scoring and parsing and all that kind of stuff. So my brain is there. But at the same time, I think that game was too slow and too reliant on other people for success, and that's just not the way my brain wants to be. So this is a solo game in some ways. I think that eventually they might be branching it into more of a group play thing, but as of right now, it's mostly solo. And the benefits towards that is that you get to make your own decisions and you get to make your own mistakes at the same time. Um, in the ways that games try to do strategy, try to make you understand the way forward, it doesn't do a lot. It's just kind of leaves you open. It says, hey, here's an introductory level that doesn't have anything to do with the actual game. Play and press buttons. And then it's up to you to kind of bumble your way towards success. So, again, me being an ex-WoW player, I think, well, I'm going to go to the websites. I'm going to go to strategy guides. I'm going to go to YouTube videos. And I'm going to find all of the reasons for how good players are good. I'm going to find how they get good. And one of the missteps and the ways that I feel like the game could be a lot better is just general cleanup of its own history. Again, the game has been out for multiple years, and in the same way that if you were playing World of Warcraft or any MMO for that matter, and you found a strategy guide saying, "Oh, well, this weapon is the best weapon in the game by far," and you think in your head, "Oh, I got to go get that weapon," but it's had 2 expansions since then, and now that weapon is completely irrelevant. The guide still says it's the best, and there's so many guides for this game out that say these are the best characters and these are the best strategies and these are the best comps, and so many of them are outdated now. So many new characters outshadow the old characters, and I have case in point for that with my own account. So this is my account. I've been playing, like I said, for 3 months. I feel like I've gone fast for comparatively speaking to what I've seen other people play. I'm on chapter in the campaign. I'm on chapter 33 8. I just hit the 3-team stages for the bosses, and I've made good progression. I have a good guild. They're all really supportive because I want to get that dopamine hit more often than just a single day account. I have an alt account. My goals towards each of these accounts were account number 1, play the game the way that I want to play it, and account number 2 was follow all the strategy guides and all the YouTube videos, and the culmination, of how to play the game correctly. Um, I decided to make my alt account because I realized kind of how badly I had screwed up for my main account. And so I'm like, I'm just going to play this and see the comparative results between the two. Um, I think that what it's shown me is that it's not, you know, it's not something where you can mess up your account forever. But at the speed that I went through the campaign, it kind of does. You have to make smart decisions, and you have to have so much so much more guidance than the game gives you in order to be able to do well. Because you'll get to a point where it's not just your hard wall, like, because all the guides will say, oh well, if you get stuck, then you can go to a different mode. I've done all the modes. I've gotten to a point where in almost every regard I'm stuck everywhere. So that's where the game comes into its own. It's an AFK game. It wants you to be AFK. So I get it from that regard, but playing on my alt account now, collecting daily rewards, you take the game slow, and by the time you get to where I am now in that same manner, I would have so many heroes built out. I would have so many more teams built out. I wasn't even ready for the jump to 2 teams, never mind 1 team. The 1 team was going strong, everything was great, but I was going so fast, and then having to relearn the game over and over and over again, that it got to the point where I had to relearn the game, and now I don't have the resources to fix the game that I had broke, so to speak. So a lot of that just comes from the fact that there is just lots of old content out there. I mean, every single time you look up in Reddit, you look on Google, whatever, on any AFK website, you'll find, oh, this is a guide. The first thing you should do is look at the top to see when it was posted. If it says 7 months ago, that information is going to be kind of spotty. It's going to be maybe okay, maybe some things haven't changed, but do some more digging. If it says anything more than a year, probably don't trust it. I watched a YouTube video from one of the top 2 YouTubers that cover this game, and he was talking about how great Shamira was. Shamira is the best character in the game, super hyper carry, amazing. And I thought, wow, that's the character I got to go after. And then after I built her, watching more content, watching more information, everyone's like, Shamira is the worst. Shamira drops off the planet. She's just so bad. And it was just like such a downfall to see all my resources pulled into that character. And she did well for a while, but it was absolutely true. There reached a point where she just dropped completely off the map. And I made it work, and I squeezed as much out of her as I could. And then finally, when I got to the level that allowed me to swap a character, which is I've only seen one of these in the whole game. I made a very great decision and just swapped her, just completely dropped her. Don't even have a copy of her anymore. I think I have one in my bag here from just like an event or something. Yeah, so I have Shamira from here, but I'm probably not going to use her, at least not until way later. And that brings me to some other information that I think is misleading or could be better about the game. And that's the fact that there are just inherently bad characters. It's not even like a matter of skill, like where, well, this character will be good up until a certain point, and then you don't use them anymore. Those are called fodder heroes. That's normal. That's fine. The game is designed in a good way in that sense. You use the fodder heroes until you get to a point that you can feed them into bigger heroes. That's great. But what sucks is that when you get these elite characters and you have all this information from YouTube and Reddit and Google saying never ever use these elite characters as fodder, ever. But some of them are just trash. I mean, everyone knows the heroes that I'm talking about, like Walker, and the tree. I don't even know what the tree's name is. But yeah, just bad characters. So the reason why they're bad is because either their moves are static damage based on their own skills and abilities, and they just don't scale that well, And likewise, the really good characters, the broken characters, the hyper carry characters, are ones that scale off of the enemy's level. So you get near infinite levels of being able to crush at deficit. Um, so like for now, and I think this is a pretty common train through most players, is that once they start getting into multi-team fights, everyone goes the same direction. Um, you have a Graveborn team because arguably Graveborns have the least worst heroes, and all the guides say to stack on that. You have your two cheese teams, or your first cheese team and then your second cheese team. The first one is based on either Thorin or Lucretia, and then the second one is the other one. So my first team is a Graveborn team. My second team is Thorin. My third team is Lucy. Um, Again, I was reading all the guides. All the guides say you got to do an order of how things are in the game. Um, Everyone knows that's watching this video how the game works. You've got your different sections of methods of getting different heroes and characters, and that's great. But I wish that they had a little bit clearer understanding, like maybe some sort of some of these top players that have made these guides in the past, have them come in to the company, have them either hired by them or just do some, in preliminary work so that they can get the ball rolling. Put some guides in the game so that new players don't feel as lost. Like, I get it. You have a very successful game. You don't need some random person telling you that this game needs to be fixed. You make so much money. But just imagine how much more you could make if you had no players quitting because of getting frustration. Like, because they've wasted their time, right? No one wants to have their time wasted. So you want to be able to play the game, you want to be able to have fun with the game, and you don't want to feel like the game ever misled you into thinking that you're doing the right thing and then have it be absolutely the worst thing. Kind of with my whole Chimera story. But so getting back to how you get these characters, one, it takes an incredible amount of resources, which is, it's not bad, it's fine. But if you are getting your resources from the standard versions of the game and you're going fast, then you won't have enough. You won't have enough for everything. There's different factions in the game, and you have to use the food of a faction on that same faction. So at some point, like for instance, if you're stacking Graveborn, like all the guides say to do, you'll just run out of Graveborn food. You won't have any. And likewise, you'll have too much for all the other factions that are arguably worse. Mauler is really, really bad, and comparatively speaking. And you just have tons of Mauler food, and you can't use that. And likewise, there are certain things that are good in the other factions, but they're usually like buffers, they're things like that. So getting back to the whole priority and all the different guides, like rule number one, absolutely most of those beginner guides that talk about, this is how you should collect these heroes, this is how you should ascend them, those are all pretty fine until pretty much you break the crystal and you open up all the leveling. Which, by the way, is a great system. I love the fact that you don't have to level up more than 5 characters. That's amazing. And I love that they brought it to the pets as well. Also very amazing. So, big fan of that. The gear resonance is also good. I wish it were maybe not as much necessary. Like, for instance, with the resonating crystal, you only need to level 5 characters. With the pet resonance, you only need to level 4 pets. With the gear resonance, it's like 60 sets of gear, and even if you're doing that, it's a good number of pieces to have to obtain in order to get the resonance, and it's a little much. Maybe quality of life, you could turn it down a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. If it were in the game and these other things were fixed, I would just live with it. So the amount of food necessary for investment, totally insane. And again, if you get to that point where you're not following the right guide because it's not on the direct website or something, or you look at a tier listing, then you could be wasting your time, right? Another big one is looking at a guide and seeing, oh, Raku is amazing, right? Raku's top everything. So then what do? You pour your resources into these characters, right? So top ones that they talk about, perfection. Let's talk about it, right? Scarlet. They talk about her. She's top in the game, right? Amazing bazillion damage, right? Well, you have to build her. You have to build tons of copies of her. And then once you get her, she's not really that good in the campaign. I know the campaign's not the only mode of the game, but she's really for boss fights. Like, just for boss fights. So they don't really tell you that. And they don't tell you, hey, you have to get her built completely before she's really usable. You can kind of use her in the beginning. Okay, that's fine. Kren is another one, right? Everyone loves Kren. Super amazing damage, whatever, right? He, in without being built, without getting his furniture, without getting his engravings, things that make him be able to survive, he dies in 1 second. Like the fight starts, he's dead. So, I had this worthless character. And Raku, another one. Raku's amazing. You have to have him built. I mean, fully built. They're like signature item full, engravings, a lot, right? And even then he's got this weird thing going on with the whole auto system where the auto is bad for him but not for your other characters, and it's just a headache. So why even have that kind of a bad character in the game? Not bad character, obviously Raku's amazing, but why have it so that you if you listen to your player basis, I mean, this is everywhere, especially from your top YouTubers that are advertising your game, they're saying this is the way, this is the standard of the game. So why do you not listen to them and fix things like this, right? Change it so that his ult doesn't do what it does. Change it so that on specifically just him or on any character, you make it so that he doesn't auto ult with everybody else. That would be something that you could fix. Another thing is that if you do develop these characters, and not so much like Raku and Kren, because eventually they become amazing, but let's say that you built up a character that's, borderline worthless, like Isabella, right? Isabella was one of the first characters in the game. She was really strong at a certain point, and she just dropped off the map. Same with Chimera, although Chimera is arguably better, even with still dropping off the map. But offer more character swaps. Offer the ability that if you get too much Mauler food, and you have to make a character to just make a character. Let's say you make this guy. No guide says that this guy is good. So you make this character, you put all your food into him, and then hey, you get a swap. You get a swap token and swap it to a Graveborn. Swap it to Rowan, right? Arguably most broken character in the whole game. That's what I did. I swapped my Chimera for Rowan, and I've never looked back. The game opened up for me. I was like in chapter, I don't know when you get the swap scroll, it's like 24 or something, but I mean, I was hard stuck. And then I swapped for Rowan, and like the whole game was so much easier. So much easier. So what I'm saying is that you need to understand where the moments in your game are that are going to frustrate your players, and try to make them better, right? Obviously, you don't want to fix things, right? Not to a certain degree, because then people get upset. Oh, hey, no, this is the best. I built the best. Don't unbuild, me, I guess. And I understand that, but in terms of like tier listings, it's hard to see these characters that are just worthless and not feel bad when you pull them. When you just pull a random thing and you're like, oh, I pulled this random person, it's not helpful to you at all. You spent time using those resources, and now you just have to chuck them, or feed them into somebody else if you get that chance. And again, new players would know that if I get multiple copies of Isabella, I'm feeding them. I'm going to feed them into somebody that actually matters. And new players would be looking at guides that say don't never feed elite characters. And so then you'd say, oh, well, I have to hold on to everything. And then at that point you get capped on the number of heroes you can have. And all in all, it's frustrating to see a game with such good design and such good strategy and potential, um, and to see some of these pitfalls just very obviously broken. Like the entire community knows that it's broken, and there's nothing really to fix it. Um, in terms of like fighting games, there was tier listings that were made that were based on matchups, and then you'd get a score at the end, and it would say how one character compared to another one. One of my favorite games is Street Fighter Third Strike, and when they first did the tier listings, Chun Li was so broken that she had a positive 31 deficit score over every other character. The next closest was Ken at plus 16, and then it was like Yun at 10, and it goes on down from that all the way down to something like negative, I think like 28. And so at that point, you were saying, like, wow, these are so crazy. But it was based on player skill and information. And that game has been out for such a long time that those tier listings shift around and people get better and they can execute things. And even though there are certain things that are static, like for instance, one character's defense is pretty low, you can overcome that by just player skill. That's not the case in this game. You can't really make a bad player or a bad character good just with play skill. Not really. I mean, you can up their damage with the comp, with what buffs they're getting and so on, but you can never make one of the non-carry characters into a carry character. Not really. And if you do, they're gonna cap out much lower than the ones that everyone knows are really really strong now. So just have the ability to swap them for other characters that you know are good, so that you're not sitting there waiting for food. Or if you wanted to, change some of the characters that are on the lower end that nobody plays, that some people may really like the design of, like Shamira, to have damage-based abilities off of the percentage of the enemy's level, as opposed to static numbers, right? So I think that one of the reasons why she was such a good character initially was because she did 25% of her own health when she did her big, massive ability, and that made her very tanky. But then Damon came out and was so much better because his is percentage based off of the enemy. So it just scales infinitely. Thorn is another character like that, the damage that he's dealt from other characters is dealt back to him during his ult. So that's another ability that's based on the enemy's damage. It's based on who you're fighting. And therefore they'd almost never really, not really, go out of usefulness. Obviously you want to make new characters, you want to make new metas. That's fine. You want people to continue playing your game. And I think that if you just make it so that more characters can succeed in the same way, that you'll have a much more diverse playstyle instead of just everyone doing the Thor and Cheese, everyone doing the Lucy thing, everyone doing Great Form. Those kind of things. It gets a little bit boring to see, oh, well, there's 250 players, and the variation between their builds for the top spots are like one character. Like someone might use Work, and the other one might use Twins, and so on. So it would just be nice to be able to have a character that says, hey, this character gains, I don't know, 20% of the attack of the enemy in buffs to their whole team. And then that way you make it so that there's more playstyle. Diablo did a similar thing where they made it so that some characters, like your ability to do damage was based on the percentage of something, and then you could start stacking things. Like you could say, well, I'm going to use this ability in this rune, and that gives me 200% damage. So then you stack that with something else, and some abilities are multiplicative and some abilities are exponential. But the idea is that you could then make your own builds with some of the items that were in the game and make them really strong, and you felt that they were own. If it doesn't work at a certain point, then you got to switch. That's fine. But you can't switch in this game. There's no reset. There's no ability to, some things you can reset, like, the tree, right? You can reset parts of the tree if you want. You can, um, up until a certain point in the very beginning, you can reset your characters. So that's a little bit of a chance, but it still costs resources to do that. So I don't know. Again, these are I'm rambling a little bit because I want the game to be good, and I don't really know how to get there, but I can offer constructive suggestions. Um, so we talked about top level players making in-game tutorials. We talked about switching some characters' abilities around so that they were percentage based off of the enemy, and that way they make them so there's not bad characters. And we talked about some of the things that need to be cleaned up, like the history of the guides. Those things all make for a less than streamlined experience. I get it. Nobody's supposed to play the game, I think, this fast. I think they're supposed to take their time, and you'll have more chance. Everybody that I see that's on the same like stages that I'm on, if you get stuck on a stage, and you say, "Oh, I'm gonna look at the formation," right? You look at the formation, and you say, "Look at this. This is a similar team to what I use. This is a 5-star Gazul, 1-star Ulna Ascended, 4-star Odin, 5-star Pharrell, and 1-star Daemon." And now let's look at my team one, for instance. My team one is we've got a 2-star Daemon. We've got a non-ascended Ulna, just an elite plus. We have Pharrell. I believe he's about to be ascended. He just needs some food, some mythic, and then good old immunity Brutus at Mythic Plus. So again, these characters are so under-leveled in comparison to the formations that I'm seeing that are dominant. Look at the ability to stack all this stuff. This is insane. None of my characters are even close to that, and I'm still downing stuff. I'm still downing content, but it just means that there's more strategy involved. And this was a constant thing that I would hear while playing World of Warcraft. You would have players that did badly, and when you would confront them and you'd say, "Hey, what's going on?" Because again, it's a team-based effort in that game. You say, "Hey, I need you to do a little bit better so that we can succeed." Hopefully, I feel like I'm doing my part. How can we make you do better, right? How can we bring you up to everyone else's standards? And they'd say, "Well, I need more gear." And my answer for that was, okay, yes, more gear can help, but more gear is not the end all reason why players are good or bad. It does help, absolutely. But in the similar way with this game, you've got players that are much higher level than I am. I have a guildie that said something similar. They're like, why is Penguin so much higher than me? Like, I was in 32, I think, when they were in 31, and now went to 33, and they're still in 31. Why is it like this? They have multiple 5-star characters. And I didn't really have an answer for them, but I do a lot of things based on trial and error. I like strategy games. I like games where you have to make decisions on your progression. I like it when you ultimately decide how successful you will be. I love exploration, experimentation, and I love practicing the execution of things for self-improvement. It's why I play video games, right? I want to be able to overcome obstacles, achieve success, have goals in tangible ways, not like real life ways like paying your bills and not dying. So I like all those things. And to me, that's just the kind of person that I am. That's the way I play games, which is why I feel like I succeed more often than most people do. But the reason why I bring this all up is that people think that that this game has, roadblocks, and it does, with certain comps, and I need to be able to deal with 3 characters that can go invulnerable, and for 8 seconds. How do I deal with that? And it's literally just trial and error. Just, oh well, if this comp isn't working, then you move it around. You move this character to here and see how that works, and move that character to that one, and then you mess with their artifacts and maybe whatever. And the way that the game's AI is set up, it's very strange. It has its own scripted things that it wants to do based on literally like the most minor differences. So like this character has this protective shroud on her, right? If I change this shroud to the ability to dodge and have a shield that gets put up, it will change who goes to her, right? So one character might run at her because, oh well, she's easy to kill, and then if she has that dodge thing, they might do something completely different. And they always do that, but that doesn't mean that that's the total outcome of the battle. It just means that that's what the AI wants to do. There are still things in the game like the ability to hit, miss, to regular hit, to crit, to avoid, to shield, absorption, all those things. All those things are in the game, right? And so you might get a battle where you try it out, right? Like, this is my Thor and Cheese level, and I'm just going to play it, and we've got the characters doing what they need to do, and maybe he wins, maybe he doesn't. Looks like he's going to lose. So he lost, right? Okay. That doesn't mean that the next battle is going to be the same outcome. I won't change a single thing, and it's possible he could win. It's all just a little bit of RNG and the AI scripting. So if the AI scripting is bad or good, and you get the RNG in your favor, you can just win. You just keep clicking it, keep trying, hundreds of times. I have stages where it says, hey, you beat this level after 284 times. And it's like, oh, okay, apparently I only needed to do it 284 times. Like, I almost won that one. And I have cleared the stage before. I didn't clear one of them, but the point is, sometimes that's all it takes. And again, the game doesn't tell you that. And sometimes the guides, they don't tell you to go hard like that. They just say, well, if it's not working, what did they say at the end? It'll say something like, oh, well, you didn't win. So in order to beat it, you have to adjust your strategy. You have to adjust your formation. You have to gain more levels. I might win this one. No, I lost. Okay. So enhance your gear. Adjust your formation. Equip higher tier gear. The tier gear does a little bit. Again, it's more to do with like where the AI wants to go. Enhancing your gear, that's really just the same thing. Adjust your formation. That's a key one. Absolutely adjust your formation. But what I would argue most new players to do, is that when they fail on a level, don't think, well, I got to go back to the shop. I got to spend way more money. I got to build. I got to get more stars, because that's the only way that I'm gonna get through. Adjust your formation and get it to the point where you almost win. Right? That one I almost won. Get it to where you almost win, and then just spam that button like 100 times. One of the other popular YouTubers has a thing where he talks about how certain things in the game are released that are based on how long you've been playing, right? So this is my main account. I have the 4-speed unlocked for battles. My alt account is too low to get that, so I'm still at 2-speed for the alt account. And it's so painful to go through my dailies on my alt. I mean, literally, you have to wait what feels like an eternity for levels to actually process and finish. And you're sitting there, you're waiting, and you're like, well, why would you block new players, right? The new players want to experience the game more than, I guess, the people who've been playing for a long time. So if I start a battle on this one, you've got only the 2x speed seems so slow by comparison. And I guess you want to know how things work, so that's fine. But there's just as much information in the ending thing as there is in the actual battle itself, or even so more so, right? If you go into this and you come down and you see, well, this character healed a lot, right? Maybe that means, and if you failed, then put some sort of counter, put something that interrupts them, that pulls them, that stuns them, and then they won't heal as much, and then maybe you'll win. This is where you get all your information. This is how you get your breakdown of how to do better in the game, not really in the game itself. Put the 4 times speed in from the very beginning, right? What's another one? Apparently, you at level 35, you get the ability to auto battle. This is the kind of thing I was talking about, where you get to a point where you almost win, and then just auto battle. Why is that feature not in the game from the beginning? If your comp is bad and you're not going to win, it doesn't matter how many times you auto battle. It's almost never going to go in your way. Not really. But if you get to that point that I talked about where you're close, then the RNG can go in your favor, right? Again, it's not going to work the same way. Your character might stop halfway between because a hit got off that didn't normally get off the last time you did it. But if you get to that point and you can almost force it, just give us the auto battle. We want to play your game. We don't want to stop playing the game, I guess. I mean, and that's ultimately, I think, my biggest gripe with the game is that it's called AFK Arena. The game wants you to be AFK, but I'm not playing it like an AFK game. I'm playing it like a game that I can progress in, that I can set goals and achieve them, and I want to be able to do that. So I feel like I've got to the point where I'm rambling a little bit. The couple things that I just want to point out at the very end are, I think that some of the factions they're fine. It's pretty standard for how mobile games work. They say that, I think it's like something like 95% of all the income for most of these mobile games comes from whale players, and that's fine, right? But you kind of have to have a give and take relationship between the whales and the free to plays and all that kind of stuff. So some of my suggestions for that are, one, with the new Awaken Heroes, I feel like for free to play players, it would be nice if you added the option to trade on a 1-to-1 scale, maybe even just one time, an Awaken character for another Awaken character, right? I only have the first copies of all the Awaken characters. I'm not building them all out yet. I'm not even to that point again. I haven't been playing that long. I almost don't even have. I don't have any dimensionals. Not really, because that's just not the way I wanted to play. On this account, I'm actually doing, like I said, what I'm supposed to be doing. So I have these in the works. Arthur, Merlin, Joan of Arc. They're all getting up there in the account that I'm supposed to do it this way, right? I get that. But on my main account, I didn't even bother with that stuff. It didn't matter to me. I know that it matters now, and that sucks. But give the ability to trade an awakened character for another awakened character. Like I said, just so that you have all of them on the base level, and then once you get them all, because you get a duplicate, and to a free-to-play player, you look at that and you go, well, that's a spot in my character list that I'll never get back, because you're going to have to get another one to make it into a Legendary Plus, and then 3 more to make it into, and then by the time, like 24 or something, by the time you're actually ascended, built, and whatever. And that's just, it's unrealistic on the scale of someone who's been playing for 3 months. But at the same time, I still do my daily, where I'm not on this account because I'm not the right level, but I still do my dailies. It's where I buy the Time Gazer card, and I do my daily to get. I've pulled a lot of them. I pulled Ace Elise the other day. I pulled everything else I think I got from random pulls. Anyway, point is, it would be nice if there was something there, just a little, like, hey, don't worry, we're not going to leave you guys out. And I think that on the same level, having your promotional dimensional characters only have the ability to be obtained with in-game currency during the event that it happens is a misstep. I think it would be great if you have it during the event and then post it. Have have something where there's like currency that you can build up in the game, just as a a byproduct of something else. You're doing the lab, maybe it's a resource in there, or maybe you do your currency for, I don't know. Maybe you do your currency for dimensionals based on diamonds. I mean, it would have to be a lot of diamonds, I guess, but still, it would be something. And then finally, I think it would be nice if you had World of Warcraft did this. They did this where they made it so that if you were on the newest game and you were a hardcore player and you never died, you got like an icon, right? And it was like super impressive to have that. And when you are playing in the sense of this game, everyone says like, "Oh, free to play players, they just talk about how they're free to play all the time." Put a little dot or like an icon around their their thing. They won't have to say it anymore. People just see it right away. Oh, they're a free to play player. Got it. Cool. And give them some sort of like a realistic um, perspective on how they're doing in the game, right? It's all great to look at. Let's see. Let's go to the bosses, and we're gonna see. Oh, here's the boss, right? And here's the leaderboard. Here's all these ridiculous players, with. Oh, actually, this is pretty standard. Well, you know what I mean. Point is, usually, especially if you look at like the PvP, it's just like everything maxed out, everything full whale territory. Um, Make it so that there's a similar leaderboard for free to play, right? Give us the ability to kind of compete on our own level. And if you want to play with the big boys, great. That's cool too. You can be on the whales can still feel powerful if we're on their leaderboards too. But it just would be nice. Again, they had some of these features in WoW, but I don't think any of them really took off. It was like a with buffs, without buffs category. But yeah, that would be great. I think that would be cool. Another one this is such a minor thing at this point, but the skins in this game are kind of trash. For a game that's supposed to be about microtransactions or individual purchases, and that's how you get your income. Um, Most of the games that do this well, that's where they get all their income from, right? Smite is like this. World of Warcraft has similar structures of pay where you can buy like in-game mounts and things like that, whatever. The point is that if you had more skins that were designed in a way where people actually wanted to buy them, you'd probably make more money than saying like, hey, you can buy a dimensional and skip 6 months of content for $100, right? That just seems, I don't know. It seems like you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So that's my thought process on it. I think, like I said, I love the game. I've done well, and see, like I said, this is my alt account. I'm only on 13, but it's going so much better because I just had the knowledge of my main account to say, hey, don't do these things, do these things, right? And in the first time, I followed bad strategy guides that were outdated and just need to be removed, need to be fixed, whatever. And I want them to do well, and I want them to be able to have more players, right? It's hard to sell a game like this off of anything other than word of mouth, right? YouTubers are the best, are arguably the best advertisers of any game. When you get somebody that you really like on YouTube and they sell you a game, you buy into it hard. I tried this game on a whim, based on Lazy Peon. He did like an ad for it, and I was just like, well, I'm not playing WoW anymore. I'll devote my time into this. And I thought, well, that was that was a giant sell, and I didn't know what I was getting into. But it was nice to be able to actually come into the game and realize it wasn't crap once I got here, because that's arguably a lot of what mobile games are based around. Mobile games will have the situation where you come into the game and you were sold on an ad, and the ad team has no idea about how the game is actually played. I saw an ad or a screenshot recently on Reddit where it showed 3 different pictures of Taylene. One of them was her base skin, and then it shows her in her wedding gown skin, but a little bit bigger, and then awakened Taylene at the end, and it's like, the beginning of the game, the middle of the game, like you're a master now. It's like, do these guys even know how the game is played? They don't know that. They just make ads and they hope it sticks, and people buy that stuff. So it would just be nice in general if you had more connection to what your people are saying. You had more connection to the advertisers. You make the game not a trick to be good, but a game to be excited and a game to be celebrated because people weren't tricked into doing something wrong and then having to fix it with a second account. They just they said, hey, you know what? I like that character. I'm gonna play that character, and that one's good. And they went with that. So again, I think I'm kind of running out of steam. Hopefully, this has been informative, and hopefully, it helps somebody. Again, there's lots of guides on Reddit. There's lots of YouTube. The 2 YouTubers that I know of are Fury Hippo Gaming and or Fuzzy Hippo Gaming. Furry, I think it's Furry, and then Vulcan. Those are the 2 ones that are like the most popular, and most of their videos are good. But again, there's a lot of stuff in there that it gets a little bit misleading, right? You've got like the pet system that was introduced somewhat recently, is now being revamped. So now any video that talked about pet priority before now is going to be different because the resonance system's coming out, and you're going to want to scale your pet characters a specific way, and it's going to be different towards how you prioritize that stuff. But those old videos still exist, so someone might find that video and say, oh, this is the right thing to do, and then waste their time. In the same way that you might read a comp guide that says that, what is her name? Gwendolyn? I know I have a copy of her somewhere. Anyway, she's supposed to be super, super broken, super good, whatever, right? And yet she's bad now. But, no one tells me this. Lucius is arguably okay in some situations, but again, not great. I know that there were some changes made to Rain, where she was really bad for a little while and then she got good. Do that to other characters, right? Don't waste your designs that you already have. Make it so that somebody actually wants, I don't know, Belinda, instead of it just being, well, it's 2020 and Belinda's hyper carry. She's not anymore, is she? She's like only good maybe as like a 3rd, 4th team in the Lightbearer Tower, and that's not apparent just from looking at the picture. You just say, oh, I like that way that the character looks. I'll try her out. Yeah, do better, I guess, right? Again, I like your game. Everything can always be better, though. So, hope you guys take care of yourself and keep playing. And like I said, the biggest thing is get to a point where you can almost win, and then just spam that button, because a lot of times RNG will win the fight for you. Okay, bye.